Well, hello everyone, Texie88 here and welcome to another retro gaming review. And now I bring you the Spectrum conversion of Buggy Boy, which was released by Elite Systems in 1988 and is a coin-op conversion of the arcade game of the same name. So I've already defined my keys, so let's get this show on the road, shall we? Or on the track anyway, at least. So you got 5 hugely imaginatively titled courses here. Off-road, north, east, west, south. Oh my goodness me. So imaginatively named I can barely even contain myself. But anyway, let's get off-road done since it's the one that's already loaded in. Well, first thing you notice is that the buggy that you're controlling is nice and colourful. And anyone who saw my review of Outrun on the Spectrum and the Amstrad will also remember that I complained bitterly about, amongst other things, about the fact that it didn't even tell you what gear you were in. That's not the case here. It actually tells you which gear you're in, and that. But unfortunately, one thing I do have a problem with this version is that the frame rate is pretty poor. Oh, that's a pretty nice explosion effect though. But look how slow this is. Another thing about this game is that if you drive over a small rock like I just did, you can actually go on 2 wheels like that, although you have to be careful how you generally conduct yourself if you do decide to do that. Ugh. And if you go over logs, you jump like that. Oh, that's nice. And I ran out of time. That's even better. Let's try another course. Right, that's north loaded. Let's see what this one's like. Well, not different colours. Speaking of colour, that's a pretty imaginative use of colour on the background there. Now you might be wondering what the business is with these flags. Well, in the original arcade version, if you collect the flags in a certain order, you can actually get a bonus if you get it in the order shown in the top right corner there. Unfortunately, because this is in monochrome on the Spectrum, you can't actually tell what that order actually is, so presumably they just made it so you can collect them in any order, because I can't see what's good. Look, how am I going to see that? My blooming buggy's in the way. I can't help feeling they should have made that buggy smaller and worried less about colours on it. Yes, it looks quite impressive what they managed to do with the colours, but unfortunately, if it's... Oh, goodness me. The problem is it's so big it largely obscures the view of the track in front of you. And I'm going to run out of time again. So, run out of time. Another thing I don't like about this version is that the graphics advancing things advancing towards you due to perspective, they don't really go far enough. They just use the same sprite and just enlarge it, which makes everything look really blocky. Now, this is a game that came out in 1988. Just 1 year later came the masterpiece from Ocean that is Chase HQ. And that didn't have any of that problem in it. The hit detection in this is pretty iffy as well. There's some bits where I'm pretty sure I should have hit something and didn't. And some of what seems to be happening seems to be a bit jumpy as well. Oh God, it takes... And there's, as with my review of Outrun on the Spectrum Amstrad, there's no feeling of speed. Everything's so jerky. I mean, look at this. You can even see when you do something like that, it takes forever. I mean, I'm supposed to be doing 227 kilometers per hour, but that doesn't look anything like 227 kilometers per hour. Oh, you've got to be having a giraffe. I run out of time just before the time. Let's try another course. Let's try East. Another thing that's sadly missing from this version that was in the original arcade version, there were other buggy racers on the track. It's just you in this, and that is also another sad loss. Oh God, that is a pretty impressive sound effect. It's a pretty nice looking explosion effect. I mean, I'm supposedly doing 227 kilometers per hour, but it really doesn't feel like I'm going that fast. What the hell happened there? Why am I going so slowly? Oh, I mean, oh yeah, right, as if I'd explode going that slowly. Oh, this is horrible. This frame rate is utterly lamentable. I mean, I was actually looking at what kind of reviews this game got back in the day, and they were largely fairly favourable. I don't know why. What I went through that time thing, but I still ran out of time. Oh God. Right, let's try West. I mean, I kind of like the way the buggy that you control bounces the way it does, because it actually makes it not feel like it's just a case of a sprite going along a moving background. It actually feels like it's part of the action. It's just a shame that the action runs at such an unacceptably low frame rate. See, look how much that's slowed. Oh, God. The sprite's so big it really gets in the way. Oh, come on! Oh, look at that, it's planting me right in front of one of those barriers. I'm really not liking this. I mean, were those people who were those reviews I read from back in the day really reviewing the same game that I'm looking at now? Because I don't think either they weren't, or they were paid to say that, or something along those lines. Because there is no way. I mean, some even said it was fast. This isn't fast. It's slow and jerky. I mean, 229 kilometers per hour, more like 2.29. And what are all these lampposts doing in the middle of the track anyway? Oh, for crying out loud. And I remember how I said that the tunnel sequences in blooming Outrun on the Spectrum was slow. Look at that. That was crawling. I really think they should have made the main sprites smaller. I know it would have meant sacrificing how much colour they managed to put into it, but if it made the game faster and more playable, then I honestly think that would have been a nice, a perfectly acceptable sacrifice. See, look, I'm sure I should have hit those, but the game thought I missed everything. See, the collision detection's not really that predictable at the best of times. Oh no, I only have to get to that start bit. Guess there's only one more track to try. South. Unfortunately, I'm having to do the 48k version here. I couldn't find a working 128k version, so the sound is a bit limited as a result of the 48k Spectrum's limited sound capabilities in comparison to that of its 128k counterpart. Plus, I believe that the 128k version would not have been multi-load either. See, look how blocky those sprites become, all because they've just simply scaling up the same sprite throughout. See, look, I'm sure I hit that rock. Another thing about them being this blocky is it's really hard to tell how far away they are from you, especially with this crappy viewpoint they've picked. I mean, look at see, look, all that jumble of enlarged pixels meant I couldn't see what's going on, so I couldn't see that tree until it was practically on top of me. Oh god, this is so slow. How am I meant to get that? Oh my god, I can't bear this anymore. Buggy Boy on the Spectrum is a complete mess. Graphics. Well, initially you're impressed by how big and colourful the main buggy that you control is, but unfortunately everything else, because they just scale up the same sprite for things like trees, barrels, flags and the like, it makes everything look really blocky, and that's quite an embarrassment, particularly for a Spectrum game that came out in 1988. I don't really know why they decided to do that. I mean, even Outrun didn't do that. At least not to that level. Sound. It's okay for a 48k Spectrum, and the explosion sounds quite nice, as is the way it appears. Sorry, I meant to mention about the rather nice looking explosion effect when I was discussing graphics. The gameplay, unfortunately, I really couldn't get along with the gameplay. I mean, yes, it's a plus that unlike Outrun, they actually put a visible indicator showing whether you're in low or high gear, but that's not really enough to save it. The fact that your sprite is so big means that it quite often obscures what's directly in front of you. And the fact that the graphics can get so blocky means that you can sometimes just end up seeing a garbled mess of pixels, and you can't. And as you saw, there was a point where I couldn't actually see a tree until it was too late, so I crashed straight into it and exploded. Which is another thing that's not helped by the other main factor in this review, which really lets it down: the incredibly slow frame rate. I mean, there was a point where I was supposedly going 229 kilometers per hour, and it wasn't even close to that. I mean, there are points in Spectrum Outrun where it felt where there was a better illusion of speed than there is in this, and that's saying something. And the fact that there are no other buggies on the alongside you while you race means that another aspect of the original arcade version is completely lost. So it does that, and also takes out a substantial amount of the thrill. I mean, it says in the instructions, Buggy Boy is the ultimate driving challenge. Rubbish! Be prepared for the bumpiest ride of your life. Over 5 of the roughest courses ever devised for 4 wheels. Well, it was certainly bumpy in that buggy. You were judging how much it was jumping about all over the place. And roughest is is an interesting way of putting it, showing how, because it's considering how blocky everything around you gets, just because they've scaled a smaller version of the sprite instead of having different versions of the sprite getting different levels of distance. And of course, there's the problem that the timer was counting down in strict seconds, even with the substantially lower frame rate, which makes the game incredibly unfair. So I'm going to give Buggy Boy on the Spectrum 3 out of 10. It's just no fun, and it's too slow to be enjoyable, especially without the other buggies that were in the original version. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that review. Catch you on another one soon. Texie88 out.